Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Now last week I had a look at the richest players in Oldschool Runescape, and one of the biggest criticisms with that video had to do with the fact that the majority of them were stakers. Now not only do these players often real world trade, it's just kind of a bit boring. Like the way they got their wealth was mainly through pure chance. So today I kind of wanted to try something different. Today I wanted to have a look at the richest Ironman accounts in the entire game. One of the major benefits here is that, well, they can't stake. All of the items on the account were obtained legitimately and through hard work. And on top of that, the bank pictures are generally a little more interesting because throughout an Ironman's career, they obtain a variety of different items, and for the most part generally have more interesting banks than a main account. Now, if you do know somebody richer than the people on this list, or you're personally richer, let me know. I'll be happy to feature you in a future video. These are the richest Ironmen that I could find publicly. Obviously, there are going to be loads more out there. But yeah, anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's get started. Okay, so coming up here first is a picture I found on the bank tabs Reddit by a Reddit user named Kinkeri. Now after doing research and looking at quite a few bank picks for endgame Ironman, generally an Ironman who has maxed recently at least, usually has somewhere between 1 and 2 billion GP on their account. Obviously that's a generalization. If they happen to get lucky and got a couple twisted bows, that is going to buff their bank value by quite a bit. So our first bank pick here is a pretty standard endgame Ironman. The bank is well organized and they're not keeping much of their wealth in cash. It's pretty much all items. Now the majority of this 3.4 bill wealth is definitely in their gear. They have a twisted bow, they have a couple Dragon Hunter crossbows, multiple pieces of Ancestral, and a Kodai wand. On top of that, it looks like they've done a bit of raids too as well, as they do have the Avernic Defender. Now beyond that, they do have a pretty massive supply tab with a ton of different resource items, and even a tab for excess PVM items and Slayer items, which it looks like they have another Kodai insignia there. So definitely a pretty impressive bank and an endgame Ironman, but most likely just a bit above average for an endgame Ironman. Okay, the next bank here is again by a Reddit user named Ancient741, and this has to be one of the banks I think is the most well organized. I really like it, and they're currently sitting at a bank value of 5.3 bill, which is in my opinion well above the average Ironman at max. Now the first big tab here is their potion tab, which is worth 430 mil on its own, and that is split up between a ton of different items. Yes, they have a ton of brews and restores per potions, but they also have a ton of herbs that they haven't used yet. Now what I really like about this bank design is they decided to split up the 3 combat types and organize a single tab based on them. For example here, first up here we have the magic tab, which has all of the runes in it and all of their magical equipment, worth about 520 mil. Has about 150k blood runes, 150k soul runes, a Kodai, an imbued heart, and pretty much any of the mage gear you could want. Next up here we have the melee gear tab, which is worth 2.4 bill on its own. That's crazy. They've done a ton of Chambers of Xeric, Theater of Blood, and it looks like actually quite a bit of Corporal Beast as well, because they have an Avernic Defender hilt, they have a Scythe of Viter, an Elysian Spirit Shield, which, you know, on its own, that is such a big grind unless they got really lucky with it. They have every piece of Justiciar, and then they pretty much have every single piece of melee gear you could really want on the endgame account. Every God Sword, a Dragon Hunter Lance, and a ton of lower level stuff as well. And finally here we have the ranged gear tab. We have a twisted bow, which is really buffing up the value here. But in it we have all of the ranged items you could want, Dragon Hunter crossbow, all of the ammunition there as well. And even stuff like a Kirill's ballista, dark bow, they kind of just have it all, which I think is interesting. And overall I just really like the bank design of the whole thing. Now coming up next here is actually AlcanHC's Hardcore Ironman. Now, obviously, he's a very well-known player, but this is really impressive for a hardcore Ironman specifically. A 5.6 bill bank value with a ton of different PVM items on a hardcore is pretty far and few between. Mainly because, well, if you die, you are no longer a hardcore Ironman, and PVM in general usually has a higher rate of death. Now, Alcan's wealth is pretty evenly split up between quite a few different tabs here. So his main tab here is mainly runes, and notably 720,000 blood runes. That is a ton. His resource tab is getting pretty close to a bill just on its own, with a ridiculous amount of bones there. 28,000 dragon bones, 22,000 wyvern bones, as well as around 370 mil cash. Another really impressive tab here is his Slayer tab, which is nearly worth a bill just on its own. Rocking 35,000 Saradomin brews, that's crazy, 175,000 Karambwans, as well as a ton of really interesting PVM items, 50 occult necklaces, that's crazy. Moving on to the Slayer tab here, 4 Eternal Gems, not in use yet, 811 Ancient Shards, that's crazy. I guess you don't have as many uses for that on a hardcore Ironman. And the biggest tab by far is the main gear tab, which he does have a Twisted Bow, adding to about a bill of that value. But on top of that, he has 2 pairs of Picasians, which means 2 Ranger boots, a Dragon Hunter crossbow, Zenite pieces, a Dragon Warhammer, which on its own takes quite a bit of time. A really impressive bank, especially for a hardcore Ironman, probably the biggest hardcore Ironman bank I've seen yet. Okay, next up here we have a YouTuber by the name of Respy, who has an Ironman with a very slightly higher bank value at 6 billion. Now by far the majority of this player's wealth is in PVM items. 5 of the 6 bill is just in this one tab here, and we can see why. They have an Elysian Spirit Shield, 2 Twisted Bows, they have all of the boots from Cerberus, they have multiple drops from Raids, and Theater of Blood as well. And down below we can see a ton of other PVM drops. This player clearly mainly does PVM. And well, it does seem to be paying off. Okay, next up here we have another Ironman account by the name of WuttaBeast, and this is actually a YouTube video, and they do have a YouTube channel, so go check them out. There will be a link in the description. Now this Ironman is definitely well above average at this point, almost 7 bill in loot, and there's a couple really unique items here that I think is extremely rare to have on any account, nonetheless an Ironman. The biggest one here being the Third Age Druidic Top, extremely rare item at the time, worth about 1 billion GP on its own. Third Age Druidic is by far one of, if not the rarest items to get in the entire game. Now on top of that, they do have a pretty impressive gear tab. They have 2 Twisted Bows, they do have an Arcane, they have both of the mutagens from Zulrah, and I believe they actually do have duplicates of those as well. Now they have a Fashionscape tab where they have the Third Age Druidic, that is the main noteworthy thing here. And finally here they have a miscellaneous tab here. Notably they have the Bria Fida's staff, which took I think over 200 kills. A duplicate for each of the mutagens, a ton of extra champion scrolls, as well as 12 Godsword blades, kinda crazy, and a ton of other interesting things as well. So a really impressive Ironman, 7 bill in value, that is awesome. Definitely a really good contender. Alright, just breaking the top 3 here now, and a pretty big jump up from the last one is another YouTuber and RuneScape player by the name of Allo. Now this Ironman has managed to accumulate around a 13 bill bank value, self-proclaimed. Granted, I didn't count every single item. They didn't have the bank valuations on, but having a quick look here, it seems pretty reasonable. Now there's a couple reasons why this player is ridiculously rich, but this first tab here alone is worth I think close to 7 bill. This one tab alone is worth more than any of the bank values of any of the previous Ironmen so far. And the main contributing factors here are the 4 Twisted Bows this player has managed to get. That's crazy. But it's not just that as well. They also have 4 Rapiers, which is getting close to a bill just there. They have a Scythe of Viter. They have 4 Imbued Hearts. Sanguinesti Staff, Kodai Wand, and multiple Ancestral Pieces, 85 Occult Necklaces. That's so crazy. The one thing you never see anyone really having a duplicate of is a Dragon Warhammer, which is not very surprising considering it's a massive grind and you don't really kill Lizardman Shaman anyway. Moving on to another tab here, they have 1.3 bill just in cash. That's a lot, 127,000 Zulrah scales. Next up here we have the Potion tab, which is ridiculously impressive. This one's going to be worth a ton as well. 16,000 Super Combats, 20,000 Ranging Potions, 22,000 Saradomin Brews, 16,000 Super Restorers, probably again over 100 mil. So a really expensive tab and a really clean layout with a ton of potions. And one final image here I thought was pretty interesting. Look at all the fossils they have. 1,800 looks like medium fossils, 4,000 nearly small fossils, and 410 Vorkath heads. That's ridiculous. Such an insane bank for so many different reasons. So congrats to him. 13 bill is truly legendary. Now coming in at number 2 is none other than the YouTuber RiceCup. RiceCup has probably one of the most famous Ironmans out there, and for a couple of different reasons. The dedication that he has put into growing the account is really commendable, and there's a reason why I put him at number 2, even though I'm pretty sure the bank value is nearly identical to the last one. Now, the highest bank value that I could find for RiceCup was back in February of 2020. And that was at around 13 bill. However, after that, he actually ended up liquidating some items off his account and removing some of the duplicates. So that dropped his bank value substantially as he transferred over, I think, a twisted bow as well as a ton of other duplicate PVM items, mainly just to fund his main account. But even after doing that, currently today his bank value is still 11.1 bill, which means his overall net gain on the account is probably higher. Now, Rice Cup's bank value is split up between a few different things. The main things here, of course, he has 3 twisted bows, which is crazy, about 100 mil cash, an Elysian Spirit Shield. Is somewhat of a completionist player, so he has pretty much everything. However, looking at his bank today, still really impressive, and there's a couple things here that not a lot of Ironmen can say that they have. Not only does he have an 11 bill bank value still, he also has parts of the Inquisitor's armor set, and I believe the Inquisitor's mace as well, which are extremely rare and hard to obtain items on any account. Nonetheless, he is an Ironman as well. And beyond the crazy bank value, he's also obtained a few really niche items like the Briafita's staff as well, so just an insane amount of time has gone into this account, and it's really impressive. Now, coming at number 1 here is once again MMORPG. I don't know if there's anyone who is even close who is public about their bank value. The last video I made on MMORPG, I had somewhat of an old image, but looking at his bank value today, he has 21.7 bill on an Ironman. That is ridiculous. That is actually just so much money. It's crazy. He has max cash and platinum tokens, 326 mil. But once again, a large portion of his wealth is coming from the twisted bows, the Sights of Viter, which looks like he has 2. Of course, his Elysian Spirit Shield, very famous on that one. And not to mention that he has actually quite a few items from the Nightmare of Ashihama. He has 3 Inquisitor's plate skirts, that is crazy, 1 Inquisitor's plate body, and an Inquisitor's mace. By far the most dedicated Ironman I could find out there, so congratulations, you got the number 1 spot. Are there potentially richer Ironmen out there? Maybe, but my god, is that impressive. Anyway guys, that's going to be it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, I always appreciate it if you leave the video a like, and I'll see you next time.